acoustic analysis of vowels, we started discussing the most layman, the most non-technical understanding of spectrograms. Then we talked about those features of the first three formants, and then something about their correlation and comparison among the vowels, right? We discussed 8 vowels, 8 American vowels, in a uniform context. And then we talked about those features that those are really important for acoustic analysis. So now let me just take you to a little bit of the detail of the spectrograms. And I would be using all those 8 vowels. A spectrogram, basically, let me tell you something about spectrogram first. That spectrograms are, processed through computer applications, since there are many applications available to us. And these are, the analyses of sounds, which are showing components, right? Since in experimental phonology or in laboratory phonology, we are most of the time applying these computer applications. And there are many applications which can give us sort of, software which we are applying in the acoustic analysis. And 2 of them are the wave surfer and Prath. And for this course, we would be applying Prath in more detail because that's a requirement from the students of phonetics and phonology, not only to understand Prath, but also to practically apply Prath in their analyses, right? So the spectrograms are just the analyzed forms which are showing us those components of the physical features of speech sounds. 3 things must be in your mind while watching this, a comparison of the 8 basic American English vowels. That we are interested in the time duration, right? Just keeping in mind that what's the length of a specific vowel, and then how it could be compared with the rest of the vowels, right? And then entire time is from left to right, okay? We are starting from left to right. And for an individual vowel, it could be in milliseconds. And for an utterance, it could be in seconds as well. Then the second point, which is important, is the analysis of formants. And formants which are visible, and they are given in vertical shape, right? And in vertical shape, we could be watching them like starting from 1 and going up 2, and then also to the third formant. So that's an important point. And then we would also be interested in letting you know that what's the intensity and how can that intensity be interpreted, and how could we watch it in a spectrogram? How can we analyze it in a spectrogram, right? So that's the degree of darkness, the darker bands in the spectrograms. So these 3 things are really important for you. And we are using the same values which we discussed already in the graphical form of these 8 American vowels earlier, right? So that's an important point. And the dark bands, let me just tell you that that's the concentration of energy. And that concentration of energy is basically about the intensity of a speech sound, that how intense it is, right? Since vowels are more intense, therefore they carry those concentration of energy levels. And therefore they are forming sort of regular formants. And that's maybe the basic difference between consonants and vowels. So let me take you to those spectrograms of the same 8 American English vowel sounds. Okay, so these are the vowels, and now you can see that the E sound, E vowel, right? That how long it is, right? Like starting point, and then in order to just compare it with this one, E and A. So you can just, by your rough analysis, rough comparison, you can think about them. And then also the A, and the comparison between A and A, right? Like had, and then had. So you can see the difference between the 2. And then also about these 2, O and U, right? So that's about the length. And then you can also talk about the formants like F1, the darker concentration, darker bands, F2 and then F3. You can see them, F1, F2, F3, F1, F2, F3. And we can go up like above 3, but for this level of analysis, we are only required to know the first 3, right? And then in the case of A, F1, but you see here it is coming down a little bit. And then in this case also, like in this format, and then it's also in the shape of that, right? These features are important, okay? And then A vowel, quite long, and then here is F2, F3, then for O, the half rounded, right? Okay, F1, F2, F3, for O, F1, F2, F3, although F4 is also there, but we are not concerned with that. And then for U, right? These are the formants, right? And then just about a little bit about intensity, that you see that the darker bands, they are more intense, right? So that's the, the resonances, right? So we would discuss them in detail. And it's just your introduction to the spectrographic analysis of speech sounds, that how these formants are visible, how can we try to interpret them, and then how can we comment the very initial, very simple and brief level of comment about the length of speech sounds. And this is your introduction to these features and configurations.